I've been in the industry for almost 2 decades. I have 2 records while training for the Ironman. I think I'm the only person in history to crash a bike indoors. And I'm also probably one of the few people to ever train for an Ironman and probably not lose any weight at all. So I probably should have called David before I went for this, because the whole idea was to look like a completely different human when I was done. And I'm pretty sure I look exactly the same.
I don't know how you crash a bike indoors, but okay, we'll skip that. We'll move on. All right, Christy, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm Kristi Allen. I grew up in the home building industry, working for my family's production building company. About 5 years ago, I decided to try something on my own. I started WoodCastle Homes. So I'm a general contractor. I do custom homes here in Utah. Love it. Love being outdoors. I spent all the first half of today out on a job site in the freezing cold, but it was awesome. And then cleaned up to come here with all of you nice people. And I have never done an Ironman, but I do love running marathons. And I'm like Chris, I run full marathon and just stay exactly the same size. So it's more about the fun of running for me.
Yeah.
So most assuredly, there's going to be some questions coming out of our attendees. That is totally fine. If you have any questions, we will try to isolate those toward the end. But if you could put those into the chat, not in the question panel. So just put them in the chat. We'll keep our eyes on them, and we will get those questions out into our panelists. But let's go ahead and start off with Chris. Chris, you just finished Arizona Ironman. I just want to point out that, so I went out there because I come from the triathlon background. So I rode out there on my bicycle, one of my old Schwinn's, and I'm just riding around, and I try to find him. I spot him. I'm looking at the little app to see where he is. And I see him there, and he's like, Kevin, and he spots me. And I basically, and this is on the marathon. I think he had about, 10 miles to go, Chris?
I saw you at 10 miles in.
Oh, you saw me at 10. So you still had a good, 16 miles to go.
Yeah.
16 points. Anyway, so I was just kind of riding along with him, and I would stop here or there. And when he did his out and backs, to make sure that I wasn't just literally pacing him. But what was incredible and actually entertaining to watch was that he would constantly ask for a time check, and you could see the numbers clicking in his head, and he was estimating distance left, cutoff time, my current mindset, what is my current pace, and you could see all these little calculations going on to make sure that he knew that he was going to finish that Ironman. So thank you for letting me be part of that. That was awesome. So you went into crashing indoors. Tell us a little bit more about what you needed to do to set those goals to be able to finish that Arizona Ironman.
Yeah, I mean, and I got to give some love to my brother Chad on this. One of the reasons I was asking for my time check so much is I wanted to make sure that I beat Chad, because if I did not, I would never hear the end of it. But if it wasn't for Chad, I never would have done an Ironman. And Chad and I have been very close now for several years, and we are sincerely like brothers. But Kevin, I sincerely would not have finished the Ironman if you weren't there with me. I truly believe that. Now, the good thing is when you're at the back of an Ironman, nobody is there to tell you that you can't have a pacer. So we got to hang out quite a bit. I mean, 16.2 miles, it was a long time we got to hang out. I got to hear some great jokes. But you know, the journey of finishing that marathon, it was the night before. And I had sent Chad a text message. And what's interesting about this is that Chad, the day before my Ironman, finished a 50-mile run. And I sent him a text message and I said, look, my practice swim was so awful because, one, I'm terrified of open water. You don't get to wear a life vest. My practice swim was only my second time in open water. Probably not real intelligent considering the fact that I'm scared to death of open water. And I sent him a message. I said, I don't think I can do it. I think I'm going to back out. And I was having dinner with my parents that night. They were in Arizona, and he gave me a call and he said, let me ask you a question. He said, are you healthier today than when you were when you made this goal? And I said, 100%. He goes, did you raise your goal number for the National Angels, which was a foster care organization that I raised money for? And we can talk about that later. I said, absolutely. We raised $11,500. He goes, then you have nothing left to prove except show up. But if you don't show up, you are going to regret it for the rest of your life. That next day, I made a video for the National Angels because they were documenting this whole thing for me. And I sent a video. I did 2 videos, one of which if I didn't finish and one of which if I did finish. And I was literally driving to the Ironman that morning. And I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And the whole showing up aspect, I knew if I got out of the water, I could finish it. But when I did the documentary for the National Angels, I said one of the reasons I was going to finish the race was because I had the Angels logo on my chest and back. I literally had wings on me.
You did.
the entire time of going through this marathon, I had many angels along the way. I had angels in the water that helped me get there. And I say that Kevin was my angel on the ground, because if it wasn't for him, I wasn't going to make it. And what he did not tell you is that he was watching my pace, and he knew that if he did not come out and give me some encouragement, that I would not finish. Now, not only did I finish, but I finished with 58 minutes to go. The lesson that I learned in this, and it was a great conversation that I had with Chad the day after, there is no excuse in life for any failure I could ever have, because I completed something that I should never have completed. But I completed it because my mind was strong and I had people that believed in me. And when you look at a goal in general, if you have those two things, you can do anything.
So if you separate out the factor that you have a massive expense to doing an Ironman, you know, the equipment costs a lot, the travel, the entry fee is like, I don't know, $600-700 now. It's a good investment. How do you make enough time having a profession to do the training? I mean, does your family suffer? How does that work?
Yeah, well, there's no, and it's like an individual award, right? I'm very fortunate to win a gold award at national. And I went up there when I appreciated my award. I said, an individual award is never truly won by one person. It's won by a team of people. There is no goal that you can accomplish in life if you do not have accountability partners along the way. And I have many accountability partners, many, one of which is my brother, Chad. I mean, literally, he is East Coast time. I'm Central time zone. This man finishes his workout at 6 o'clock every morning. So when I'm waking up at 5, I already know what he accomplished. So I already have what I need to accomplish, right? If it wasn't for my accountability partners, and I have a lot of different accountability partners, but depending upon what I'm thinking about, whether it's my children's book, whether it's athletics, whether it's work, I have different accountability partners in each of those segments. If you don't have those people to support you along the way and to hold you accountable, then I know personally there's no way I could achieve the goals.
So I'd like to maybe pose a question to David here on his, because he already mentioned, you know, weight loss over 100 pounds, and that was in about a year's time. Is that correct?
Actually, I lost 78 in just over a year. So there's kind of a story behind it all.
All right. Well, David, as we dive into that story, what was it that helped you get started? So I had a physical not about a year ago with my doctor, and they were giving me a little hassle about my weight, and I can't, you know, doctors are supposed to do that, right? And I said, look, I've lost 15 pounds this year. The problem is it's the same 3 pounds 5 times. And she didn't laugh. That was kind of sad. But so what is it though? Because I think we can all relate to the desire to be a little healthier. How did you suddenly decide I'm really going to do it this time? Was this the time compared to some other attempts?
Oh yeah, that definitely was. I mean, I was heavier than I'd ever been in my life, and I got the right doctor in my head, because the previous doctor that I used to see would be like, so are you walking 3 times a week, you know, 30 minutes each time? And you're talking about a sedentary, very overweight person, and listening to, you know, Chris and Chad talk about Ironmans. Now I do a lot of running now, so I can get into that because running is one of my things now, but I would see him. And so then like a little bit later, I saw him and he reduced that down. Are you walking 20 minutes each time, you know, 3 days a week, and even 20 minutes, you know, but I changed doctors, and her thing was get up and move. Even if you stand, she literally stood up in her office and just was talking to me and said, just move your body. She said, just if it's 2 minutes, just stand up and move your body. And so she stuck in my head for a while, but I still didn't take action. So I think the COVID thing, I hear people saying you did the opposite in COVID, and I hate to mention that word, but that's the reality of it. I gained 7 pounds that March shutdown. And that was, I think, one of the key turning points is I said, no more. You know, I started going back up and I added 7 pounds in a month. And so from that point on until where we're at now, I'm in month 7 of maintenance. I've been in about a 5 pound range for about 7 months now. So people ask me, I got a couple of key things. People say, what did you do? Oh, you look great. People that see me, oh, you look great. They haven't seen me in a while. What did you do? What plan were you on? My plan was the David Williams get it done plan. I just had enough, and I knew that I needed to do something that I could stick with long term. because the stuff, you know, seeing these advertisements for the meal plans that you order and counting points, I didn't count points. I didn't count calories. I didn't get on a specific plan. I started moving my body and I started controlling what I eat and train myself to eat differently and continue to make better eating choices. But I went from 4 prescriptions to 0 prescriptions. That was another motivator. So there's just so many. Once you start seeing those kind of results, I was classified. I had a 7.6 A1C for anybody that's on here dealing with sugar issues. At my peak, 7.6. Some people think, well, that's kind of low because mine's 11. I went from 7.6 to 5.7. So, and I've maintained that 5.7 range for like 9 months or so now. And I'm about to get more blood work because I do it about every 90 days. And just the health benefits and the way that I feel. I ran 6 miles yesterday. Did I feel like doing it? No, but I felt better after I did. So I wasn't motivated to go out and run the 6 miles. But once I got done with the 6 miles, that energy and runner's high was there. And I knew I would have that. So I just put on my stuff and go do it and make it happen.
So, and I think I'm quoting Chad on this one, that the cost of regret is a greater cost than the cost of just doing something or something along those lines.
Yeah, than just doing the behavior. Yeah.
Yes.
That's not mine, but I think I said it on one of our last podcasts.
Yeah, I think I'm 90% certain I've heard you at least say something along those lines. And I'm not quoting you properly. But so David, I want to ask you a question, and if this is too personal, let me know. But me being a former Olympic cyclist and professional cyclist, I have had an athletic body. I've got pictures that I should use as motivating pictures, but they're not motivating to me. I can't get it in check in my head. But I struggle with my body image to the point of depression. And I'm curious on, did any of that, and if it doesn't apply, it doesn't apply, but was any of just your body image and the way you felt like tying your shoes or climbing a flight of stairs, was any of that a motivation factor for you to just say, you know what, enough is enough. I can't live like this. I'm not happy like this. Was any of that?
Great question. Yeah, because it was. And so you making me think about stuff, and I'm happy sharing it because I'm like pretty open about this stuff. So to put it in perspective, from an age perspective, I was 54 when I really started hitting it hard. I just turned 55 in November. So just to kind of talk about age for a minute, because some people might be, well, I'm 45 and I can't do this, and that type of thing. So I want to like throw that in there. But I literally, Kevin, was having trouble just turning over in bed. My back would ache from turning over in bed. So, and then as a professional photographer, if you've never hauled pro gear around, it's not like shooting with an iPhone. I mean, it's like carrying bricks. I mean, this stuff is heavy. And so I would go on a shoot, and some of the shoots, like I'd cover corporate events, and it would be a long full day and my back would be aching and I would be just all like, now I can shoot. And it's one of those things that it's like, oh, I just shot for several hours and had those cameras. It doesn't, it's like an afterthought because I don't have the pain that used to be associated with. So the pain in carrying my gear, the pain in rolling over in bed, seeing my pants be borderline. I was 44 and I can fit in 32-way skinny jeans now. My daughter, one of my 30-year-old daughter says, you're too old for skinny jeans, but hey, I can wear 32-way skinny jeans and I'm going to wear them. So I was 44 pushing like 46. And it's like, no, I'm not going to keep going that way. So it was just super cool when you start seeing the weight, like this shirt, smile every mile, but it's a large shirt. I was in XXX. It's just so cool to like, once you start seeing the clothes size change. And so when you lose 15 pounds, for those like Greg who mentioned it earlier, and we were joking about it, but 15 pounds, people don't usually say, oh, you lost some weight. And I didn't really notice it, but I knew the journey that I was on. And I just, as it kept coming off, I kept feeling so much better physically that I couldn't deny the physical feelings, getting out the prescriptions, changing the clothes sizes, and body image. I'm with you, because it's like I had this thing where I tuck my hand under my gut and I'm like, my gut comes out all over all my fingers, it's like, that's not where I want to be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Chad, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey in starting a new business and trying to become someone who helps motivate others?
Yeah, well, I think, I was in new home sales for a long time. and I went to work for a national training company, and it was very position oriented. You train the position, right? Like you make better salespeople, you make better leaders, and it just didn't resonate with me. It didn't. I had a very victimhood growing up, right? And I say victimhood because victimhood happens internally. Victimization happens from circumstance, right? So victimhood, it came from internal. I wasn't victimized, right? Because I lived in a great, loving environment, but I was in a victimhood mindset. So I was broken in my own mind. And I started like realizing that my life could be better, that I was destined and created for better. And I started having this betterment mindset. And the company that I worked for was only focused on the position, where I wanted to be focused on people. Like I wanted to help make people better. And it wasn't like I was had all the know-it-all answers, because I certainly don't. But I was living it out in my own life. I wake up every day, and it sounds very dramatic or very kind of hokey, but I just want to be better. I want to be a better husband tomorrow than I am today. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better business owner. I want to be a healthier version of me. And I just want to be better. And I dedicated my life about 5 years ago to figuring out how to do that. I started reading a lot. I started researching. I started surrounding myself with great people. And I was like, this is going to be my company. And the first conversation I had was, well, businesses are never going to hire you, Chad. It's never going to work, because businesses don't care about the people. They care about profit, right? And the only way you're going to get profit is if you make the positions better. And I totally disagree. I believe that if you help a human being get better, then you will help them get better in all the areas of their life, not just segmented into one area, right? So we created a plan, and I have Morgan, who's our director of operations, who is basically amazing, right? Helped me create this plan. We have Phil, who's another national trainer. We have all these people that work with us to help fulfill this. And what we found was not only were companies accepting of it, they were drooling for it. They were in every position. We help superintendents, we help salespeople, we help different industries. And what we do is, yes, we focus on making them better salespeople or better leaders or better customer service skills, all of that. But we do that by helping them become better husbands, better fathers, better wives, better sisters, healthier human beings. I'm saying we take them through all different types of things. And in this, I believe, in this life, you don't get what you want, you get what you believe you're worthy of. So if you believe you're worthy of an amazing life, and somebody can help you kind of see that and help shift your perspective, then you won't tolerate anything less than an amazing, worthy life, right? So what we do is we help shift perspectives in everything we do, and it's been amazing. I'm saying my journey, again, selfishly, I said the other day, I understand it was a really rough year for a lot of people. Last year was the single greatest year of my life, besides the birth of my kids and the marriage to my wife. By far the greatest year of my life. But I'm not stopping. I'm not like, oh, okay, well, I guess that can't be beat, right? It's the single greatest year yet. And we put plans in place and practices in place for me to become better, not achieve more, become better in 2022. And that's what we try to do with all of our clients.
Now, Chad, I don't know if this is true or not, but is it true that you have a plaque in your office that says WWCHD? What would Chris Hartley do? Is it true, or is it?
Yes,
I just heard this.
It is true. It is true. It's in the restroom. Yes, it's in the restroom. That's like second place. That's a Top Gun quote. Second place trophy is in the restroom, right? So
there you go.
Yes, but I think. Go ahead.
So what do you, I know you have your motivations. You want to be a better father, which I highly admire, because that's one of the things that I live for, just to be a good example for my kids.
Yeah.
But what do you use as a personal litmus for, because you don't have like sales numbers to look at. You don't have, how many units were sold this last month, tables. Yeah. What do you use for personal accountability? Because a lot of people struggle with personal accountability.
Yeah, really great question. And the reason they struggle with, I think, now everybody's different, right? But the reason people struggle with personal accountability is because they're too focused on the outcome and they're not in love with the behaviors. And so they say, like, I this year, I had 3 health goals, right? I wanted to do an Ironman, a full Ironman. I want to run the Chicago Marathon with my daughter. So I've run a lot of marathons, but I've never run with my daughter. My daughter was 17. She wanted to run a marathon, so I wanted to run it with her. And I wanted to do a 50-mile, my first ultra 50-mile run, right? it just so happens that they were all 6 weeks from start to finish. They're all in the same 6 weeks. And I focused the whole year on just the process of getting better. Like, all right, I had a scorecard, I had the behaviors, and I just fell in love with the behaviors. I didn't care about what time I finished the and this sounds like maybe it's the wrong mentality, but for me it works. I didn't care about what time I crossed the finish line of the Ironman or the 50 mile or any of that. All I cared about was on the day of those races, was I going to be better? And if I followed the process and I just fell in love with the process and the behaviors of who I was becoming, the results will take care of itself. The results will be there, right? And so the accountability comes. This is where I think a lot of people struggle. And we have every one of our clients is going through a goal program right now. So it's a year-long program. Every single one of them gets a huge workbook. And we boil it all down to the process. And they have a scorecard. And it sounds so crazy, but all they do every day is they check a box whether they did the behavior or not. And and Chris has one right there in his hand, right? So he's in our mastermind betterment group. It's right there. He has to turn that scorecard in every month. And they say, well, Chad, I don't want to check the box, or I forgot to check the box. Well, here's the secret. I'm going to give the secret sauce. Ready? It's not really a secret, but I'm going to say it's a secret. It's the checking of the box. What happens when you check the box? Like you have the behaviors. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. I'm going to run today, and whatever it is, right? When you check the box, your brain recognizes that as a reward, because when you check the box check equals pride. And the most important words in the human language, four most important words, I am and I did. I am, I did. So when you check the box, what you're saying is, I did this, which makes you feel really good about yourself. It produces pride. Pride is the greatest intrinsic motivator we have. So when I check the box, I feel pride. Gives me intrinsic motivation. If I have intrinsically motivated, I'll show up again tomorrow. So the littlest thing, that's why Weight Watchers works. When you scan in, and you put the points in, you feel really good about yourself. When you don't, what happens? You feel bad and you get momentum going the wrong way, right? So every morning I wake up, I grab my sheet, right? I do the behavior, I check the box. I'm done. Tomorrow I'm going to go up, and some days I win and some days I lose. But every day I have an opportunity to check the box. And so for me, that's the secret sauce, is have something that makes you feel pride in your behaviors every day. Because when you feel good about yourself, you'll continue on that path. That's for me, and that's what we put our clients to.
So let's give Christy a chance now to share. But Christy, you've been one who has broken some barriers in an industry that is not quite as friendly to women in certain ways. It's getting better, I hope. And not only did you do it by starting your own company, but then you also drove forward with the house that she built, really helping others also embrace that. So tell us a little bit about that, overcoming the obstacle of kind of the barrier to entry, if you will.
And before you do, Greg is sugarcoating this. Christy was an award-winning marketing manager for a family-owned business, MacArthur Homes. Award-winning marketing manager, successful by anybody's litmus or standard of living. She was highly successful in what she did. She took MacArthur Homes and escalated and elevated what they do. And then went, you know what? I'm going to go open my own freaking thing and then develop my own set of headaches. Who does that? And I'm going to do it in an industry that is literally dominated and ran by men in this man living world we live in. I can't applaud you enough. I come from a single mother household where my mom literally scraped by every day of her life. So the fact that you went from comfort zone and took that, I'll use a more of a religious term, but took that leap of faith, if you will. How did you do that? And what was your motivation?
Honestly, when I started my own company, I sort of actually stumbled into that role of general contractor. Originally, I started with my brother. We both had kind of wanted to do something different, but he ended up not being able to leave his position at his job. And so as we were getting started, we're like, well, who's going to be on site? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? And it was just like, by default, I was the one who was available and could be there on site. So that first house we just did sort of as like a trial, like, let's see how this goes. It was a spec home, so we didn't have to worry about the headaches of a home buyer, and let's figure this out and see if we like doing this. And it turns out I love it. I love being a general contractor. I love being on site. I love working in the trenches with my subs, with my homeowners. And I had done, like you said, I've been working MacArthur Homes over 13 years. I had never seen a female general contractor in that time. I've been to the Builder Show. I've met amazing women in the industry, but I had never seen a female general contractor. It had never even occurred to me that I would love that job. So I just feel really lucky that I accidentally ended up working on site and found out that that's what I loved. And because I found out that's what I loved, I wanted to be able to share that with more people. I became part of the Professional Women in Building of Utah. We started our council in 2019 and found other women who had sort of found their way in this industry. And we've all sort of found our own little niche and the way that the industry fits our lifestyle. So I am a mom of 3. I love being a dance mom. I love being hands-on with my kids. So I've structured my business so that I can be on site when I need to be, and I can be home when I need to be. And I get to do both, which I think is amazing. And I feel really blessed for that. And I feel like women don't know that that's an option, that they could do that. So the idea behind the house that she built was to showcase women like me, like all of the other women who have found their niches in this industry, showing them killing it at their jobs, and then also how they found their spot in this industry. And our keyword, our intention for the project, as we were getting started, was this idea of belonging. And for me, with a goal, if I set a goal, what matters the most to me is what's the intention behind it. So I'm going to run a marathon, just the idea of checking off those boxes to run a marathon. Like I can get it done. But if I don't have that intention behind why am I even doing it, then I fall apart. I don't make it. So the intention behind the house that she built was the idea of belonging. And we found this place of belonging, and we want other women to find their place of belonging in the industry. So when things got super hard, we built this house in 2020. So we were doing it with almost all volunteer labor. We were doing it trying to find women laborers. I mean, there was probably 100 nights that I laid in bed thinking, how can I get out of this gracefully? This is impossible. We cannot get this done. How are we going to get this house built? But then it kept coming back to the idea of, we have got to show women that they belong in this industry. So we have to figure out a way to do that and make it worth it. So luckily we had this amazing team of core women. Could not have done it without them. Women who worked their butts off finding us sponsors. I mean, we had so many sponsors fall through in 2020. We had a paint sponsor who said, we don't even have enough paint for people that are buying it from us. Like we can't donate. People that we've been counting on. And so we had women who busted their butts finding us sponsorships, finding us materials, finding us women. I was a general contractor, so I got to work on site with all these women coming out and coordinate with them and hear their stories and learn about why they loved being in the industry. So that was a super rewarding piece for me, and really grateful that we're able to get it done and to share that story.
So this project had its own fair share of headaches. You built it with all women contractors and talent. So you had to find plumbers that were women. You had to find electricians that were women. You had to fly people in too, correct? Because
we did.
In the state of Utah, you couldn't find
plumber. You could not find a female plumber in the state of Utah. My plumber, who had been in the industry for 30 years, literally laughed out loud at me when I asked him to help me find a female plumber. He was like,
but there's so much good money to be made in the trades. Why don't women gravitate to these? Is it just because of the fear of doing it, or is it that just they don't know that it's available as a job out there? What do you think the motivation factors are there?
I think it's all those things. I think for a lot of people, it's what my issue was, is I had never seen someone like me doing that job. It didn't occur to me that would be a job that I would fit to. And you picture in your box, this is what a plumber looks like. This is what a general contractor is. It's a rough man in a truck with his tool belt and whatever it might be, but you just don't picture yourself in that job. And that was the idea of showing all these women doing the jobs is, look, this looks like so many different things. A plumber isn't one thing. It can be so many different things. And there's different ways to be a plumber and to make that work for your career. the woman that we brought out, Kelly Ireland, she's phenomenal. She calls herself Tiny Plumber Girl. She's like, I don't know, she's less than 5 foot, I bet. She's teeny, but she found this great niche where she started out working in plumbing because her dad had been doing it, and she had an interest. And she's found this niche for herself where she's does a ton of like remodel work or work where she has to go in when there's a family at home. She's found that a lot of women feel more comfortable having her come into their house in the middle of the day when they're home alone or with their kids than they might be having a traditional male plumber. And so she's found this fantastic niche and been able to grow her business like crazy and make it work for her. So
Kevin, I want to say something real quick. So I had the honor of being able to go see the house that she built. Natalie Miles took me through, and I've been a fan of Christy's for a long time. Way back, probably first International Builder Show, like 5-6 years ago, I knew who she was. And knowing the amazing women that built this house, I have 2 little girls myself, 3 and 6. Chad is a huge inspiration to me because he has twin daughters that are 17. So I follow Chad's example a lot. One of the reasons I flew out there is I wanted to see what an all-female built house looked like, because one of my favorite things to do is to take my 6-year-old through houses that are under construction, and she loves it. When I got to go walk through the house that she built and went into the garage to see all of the photos from start to finish, not to mention the drywallers that had to build this amazing skylight that was super tiny in itself. And you walk in and this home is phenomenal, but it made me teary-eyed to see what these women accomplished. And to see that there are so many women, I feel like for the first time, really probably the last 3 or 4 years, that are celebrating the success of each other and saying, screw this shit, we can do it ourselves, which is pretty awesome, because as a dad of 2 little girls, you want to raise badass little girls, right? And then you see badass women doing badass things. It's pretty awesome and inspiring.
Yeah, I just, can I piggyback on that? I coached my daughter's basketball team from the time they were 7 to the time they were 15. And we named ourselves SPW, for Strong, Powerful Women. I came from a single mother. I have twin daughters. That's all I have. And, I listen, I'm not a woman. I don't know the plights of being a woman. I don't I understand the world is different for me than a woman. But what I'm so literally gives me goosebumps is that my daughters will grow up in a society that they're not held back. And more things that happen, like what Christy did, to me is exactly where we need to go. That there's a place for everybody. You don't have to choose. I call it the tyranny of the or. You don't have to choose. My daughters are not going to have to choose to be a great mother or business person. They're not going to have to choose to be a great wife or own their own company. I have an amazing wife who owns her own company. She is the epitome of strong, powerful women. And what I'm so gives me so much excitement is that it's because of people like Christy that every day are kind of breaking down these barriers, that my daughters are going to grow up in a much different world. And I think that needs to be celebrated more than anything else.
Well, let's parlay what Christy did and the group of the PWB in Utah with that project. The fact that it instigated and motivated Molly Elkman and Georgia Castellano to do a book for young kids. They have an activity book now that is for young kids. I bought 20 of them because I give them to my friends that have young girls that are going to eventually grow into women. And I don't want them to be my mom, where she thinks she has to work some part-time bullshit job because that's the only route that she has. Those opportunities are for everybody. So the fact that that project that you were so instrumental in motivated that project, that pushed it forward to inspire more women, I applaud you for it, because I think it's fantastic. That you talk about marathons, man, that's a marathon stacked to an Ironman, stacked onto an ultra marathon.
Yeah, right.
It was incredible. And I just do nothing but applaud you, because that's fantastic.
Well, thank you. And I am so excited about what Molly's done to just take it from sort of this. I mean, this was a very local project we did here in Utah and inspire people here as much as we could. And she's just taken it and made it national, international. And the book is gorgeous. If anybody hasn't seen it, it showcases women doing, I think, 18 different trades. And just exactly what I talked about. The little girls can read that and say, hey, maybe that's something I would love. And they know it's an opportunity.
Love that.
So Kevin, I got another question for the group. So I've heard a common theme, because when people hear stories like all of you have shared, we all go, great job, well done. but not really my thing, right? There's this tendency, because we just see the end result, right? We don't see all the pain, sweat, blood, tears, sleepless nights, everything else that comes along the way. So tell us a little bit more about those moments where you were ready to quit, right? Chris, you mentioned it. Christy, you mentioned sleepless nights. You know, we know they're there. So maybe David, why don't you give us just one time where you were ready to say forget it, and how you walked through that and kind of overcame that in that moment.
Several times a
week. Then narrow it down to just one, right? Not all 20,000 of them, right?
Yeah. So there was recently, and I don't know the day, but it wasn't that long ago. I just came home. Honestly, I don't take afternoon naps, but I felt like taking an afternoon nap more than running. But what I did is I didn't think about it. I grabbed the shorts that I run in. I put my running shoes on. I grabbed what I needed, and I didn't think through the process. I just did it. And I know that sounds so simple, but you're talking about somebody that was very sedentary. And so that day I felt like taking a nap, but I knew I needed to run. And I just put on the clothes and went outside and ran. That's about as simple as I can get with it.
Yeah.
All right, Christy, tell us about a sleepless night and how you just kind of said, one more day.
I would say it was framing. The very first day that we were framing, we had found a group of women from southern Utah. So they were about 4 hours away from where we were building, and they had said they were going to come up and help us framing. And then we had a handful of other volunteers. We had an engineering student from my local college who wanted to come out. We had a woman who had done like cabinet making and carpentry who wanted to come out and help. Just a handful of volunteers. And then we had this core group of women that was going to be our framing crew. We get there in the morning. They're not coming. I'm calling them. They literally didn't ever show up. So I was like, I don't know how to frame a house. Like I know what a frame house should look like. I know how to check and make sure that it passes code, but I'm like, I've put up some 2x4s, but and I just thought, this can't be done. We're not going to make it. But luckily we got some more women together. We found, we even had a woman-owned company who had some awesome nail framers who came out just to like help walk some of us through some of the things that we weren't totally sure about. And we had the panels pre-built because a group of women had built those off-site. So, I mean, we just kept moving forward and little steps at a time, and we just knew we had to get it done. So we did, but that day was pretty rough.
Chris, a moment where you're like, if that angel doesn't come, I'm going to drown in the middle of this open water.
I had so many of those, and that water was disgusting. It still haunts me in my dreams. But one of the reasons why most people don't do things is because they're afraid to fail, right? And so I was driving one day. I live in North Texas, and I was driving, and I had my little girls in the car with me, and there was a sign painted on this building that said, "Fear is a liar." And I made this post, and I did this speaking opportunity with Chad, and I talked about how the fact that fear is a liar. But based upon that, I was always afraid of success. I was afraid to take it to the next level. But when I stopped thinking about being afraid, I was able to achieve. And the one thing that got me through all of the time was this one saying. It says, if it's important to you, you will find a way. If it's not, you will find an excuse. Most people don't want to get up and run 6 miles, go bike for 4 hours, go do whatever it may be. But as Chad Sanschagrin famously says, you have to divorce the outcome and fall in love with the behaviors, right? When he called me the night before the Ironman and said, are you healthier? Did you raise $10,000 for your national angels? You are better off just freaking show up. He didn't give a shit if I finished. He cared about the 9 months before when I started. You just got to start.
So speaking of that, before we get to Chad, because this is actually going to, Chad, that you can flow into whatever your moment was. But I have a question for you about hitting the start line versus hitting the finish line. If your goal is to finish the Ironman, like Chris was, and you do hit that starting line, but you fail to hit the cutoff, is that still a failure? And what do you have to now redo another one? Does he have to sign up for Ironman Cozumel to make up for it?
Yeah. Are you asking me or Chris?
I'm asking you, Chad.
Yeah. So listen, I'm an enthusiastic optimist, but I still like to win. I still like to compete, right? But the idea is, listen, I didn't hit my goal. I didn't hit my goal on time on the Ironman. I've run, I don't even know how many marathons or marathon distances at this point. And very, very few of them do I hit in the exact time I want to. But I just show up and I try to get better on the next one. So I don't consider, if I fail, I fail a lot. I mean, I fail more than I win for damn sure, right? But I just show up and I try again tomorrow. Like I just keep on pushing through. And if I do that, I keep getting better. For me, the start line is I am more excited because I hit the start line than on any race finish line I've ever gotten through. The race finish line is very anticlimactic. It's only climatic if you on that finish line for me, if I'm only looking for achievement. People that aren't looking for betterment, they get really excited at the finish line because they get the medal. But achievement without betterment is solely for the ego. So if I only do it to achieve, to get a medal, to get a prize, and I didn't get better in the process, that's for your ego, which is fine. It just doesn't last very long. But when I show up at the start line and my goal is betterment, then all of a sudden it's like, I am such a better person than I was 9 months ago. I don't give a damn what happens now. This is the victory lap for me. This is the victory lap of who I've become. So for me, it's always about achievement, betterment over achievement. And I'll tell you, my time, and this is a perfect example. So I'm going to do my first full Ironman. I train for it. I bike. I run. I've never biked or swam. I hate to swim. I hate open water like Chris. I'm 6'8". Like it's like a loose orangutan out in the ocean. Like it is not pretty. It is a disgusting sight, right? And I show up the morning of the Ironman, and it's in the Chop Tank River in Maryland. It's Ironman, Maryland, and it is loaded with jellyfish. Thousands. You can't see anything. All you see is jellyfish. There was 2,200 people that entered, 1,000 drop out, right? But they're going to have to swim anyway. And I'm like, how the hell am I going to swim in a river full of jellyfish? I get in, and within the first 5 minutes, I'm stung in my face more times than I can count. I keep getting stung in my face with jellyfish. A jellyfish goes in my mouth, and all I want to do is quit. All I want to do is raise my hand and have somebody come over and drag my fat ass out of the river, right? And I just kept telling, I wear a bracelet, and this bracelet never, ever, ever leaves my wrist, right? And all it says on it is I am enough, right? That's all it says. Doesn't say anything else, right? And I keep thinking like, I want to quit. And I kept saying, I must have said this 1,000 times throughout the Ironman. Listen, I'm enough to finish this, right? Just endure 5 more minutes of suffering, and then you can quit. Just 5 more minutes of suffering, right? And all of a sudden, I kept saying it, and I got through the swim. I get out of the swim, and one of the side effects to getting stung so many times with jellyfish is nausea. 10 miles into the bike ride, I just start throwing up nonstop, and I want to quit. I got 110 miles left to go, right? 102 miles left to go. I keep throwing up on the bike, and I keep saying, all right, 5 more minutes of suffering, and then I'll quit. 5 more minutes of suffering, I'll quit. I did that for 16 hours. For 16 hours, all I did was saying, listen, I'm enough to finish this. I can finish this. 5 more minutes of suffering. It was the most miserable, god-awful 16 hours of my life. But at the end, and I'll start crying if I talk about it, at the end, my daughters and my wife were there, right? And my daughter said to me, Dad, you can do anything now. And like, to me, all I did was endure the suffering. I endured the suffering for 5 more minutes. And I think you have to kind of reprogram the story, because your life is only predicated by the stories you tell yourself. And so you tell yourself bad stories, you're going to have a pretty bad life. But if you tell yourself stories of inspiration and you actually become the lead actor in your own movie, you will have a pretty amazing life. At least that's for me.
FYI, you got me, Chad. Just talking about your daughters and the wife on the finish line like that, or near the end of the race, got me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
For those who don't know,
I don't want to do an Ironman now after that story.
just don't do one where they have jellyfish. Like, who's dumb enough to do it? Like put it in a pool or something.
Not to get too graphic, but I don't want to be anywhere near the 6'8" guy that's vomiting. Can you imagine the splash zone alone?
Again, I was so far in the back, like Chris said, I was so far in the back, it didn't matter. There was nobody behind me.
So, Christy, Kim hit us with a pretty interesting question, and it's a little bit less on the goals, but how you can transition. Her question is basically, did your marketing background help feed the success that you're currently having at your own business?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it really did. I think it helped me a ton as compared to most builders like me. So I'm smaller, custom homes. I don't have a marketing team running my marketing. It's just me working. Most builders like me have all of their background in construction and none in marketing. So, I mean, sometimes they don't even have a sign up on their lots, you know, they're just doing what they can. But I think it helped me a ton I developed a app that I use, My Home Story. I developed that when I was at MacArthur Homes. I use that with all my clients now to get them posting about their experience on social media, to get them sharing photos. So I think definitely having experience in different parts of the industry is only going to make you stronger if you do make a weird, drastic change like I did.
So I have a question for the panel about why did you decide to join us today? Because I think what happens is when you see success, you want to share that. But I just want to confirm what made you decide, you know what, I want to share these stories with the world. You know, no, unless Kevin's doing something I don't know about, none of you have been paid or offered anything special to be here, unless there's some secret deal that I wasn't included in. But what do you think, David? What is it that brought you here today? Why are you sharing your time with us?
That's a great question, because I don't generally like being on webinars or Zoom. So how many of us have been fried? But to be honest with you, as crazy as Chris and Chad are, that I've kind of learned and some of the back and forth, the fact that, and Christy as well, because I'm like, okay, I'm this weight loss guy. Because if y'all remember early on, I sent an email. I'm like, I've only lost 105 pounds. You guys are running marathons and, and Ironman competitors. So I just felt like, hey, because of the level of fitness that the Ironman competitors and the marathons, that was part of my motivation. The other part about the sharing piece of it is people taking notice and just having an interest in my journey and saying how much it's impacted their lives. Because I've seen that a lot on social media, where people will message me and say, I'm on the same journey. I'm not where you're at, but I'm headed that way. Or what did you do? Or your journey is motivational, or you're inspirational. And I hear that almost on a weekly basis. So if I can help one person on this webinar make a decision to change their life like I did and get off the prescriptions and lose the weight, then it's worth it at the end of the day.
Great.
Chris, why'd you decide to join us today?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, so many answers to this, but I think the biggest one is to put it out there that it is okay to ask for help. And I hired an Ironman coach to do this. Jesse White was my coach. I needed a coach. I have accountability partners. I have a lot of them. There is no way I could do anything that I accomplished this past year or my entire life without that.
Christy, why'd you want to join us today?
It's a lot like what David said. If you could just reach one person, I mean, and for me, it's just if one other woman can hear that story and know, hey, I can be in the trades, or I can be a general contractor and be a mom, or be whatever else I want to be, then that's worth it to me. And also, I know all of you guys are a ton of fun, so I thought this would be a really fun way to spend my afternoon. So
why did you look at me when she said ton?
Well, she wasn't looking at me when she said fun.
Everyone here was a lot of fun. There was a lot of early banter on the emails. Chad and Chris have a lot of time on their hands, I guess.
A lot.
Yeah.
Chad, why'd you want to be with us today?
Honestly, just I wanted to meet Christy and David, right? So I have a podcast, and I just invite everybody that I want to meet, like that I admire. And so I got to meet two complete badasses. I already know Chris. And so that was the downfall of why not to get on, but I got on anyway. Right. No, the reason why is, really, I'll sum it up in one word. I'm grateful. Right? I'm filled with gratitude that somebody would even ask me to come onto a webinar. Like I look at my life and I'm like, so immensely grateful for where I am and who I have become in my life. And if somebody asks you to step up and share your story, I think that we're here on this earth. My I have a very strong faith, but my faith tells me that we're here for one reason, that is to contribute to the well-being of others, right? And so every human being, I don't think there's one human being that's more important than another in this world. We just serve different purposes. And I think that if somebody asks you to step up and share your story, and if it helps somebody, to me, you are morally obligated to do so. So it's not an ego thing for me. It's a grateful and a gratitude thing for me that somebody actually wants to hear my story.
So now I want to ask the question, Kevin, to our attendees. Why did, drop it in the chat. Why did you guys want to come hear these stories? Right. And you don't have to answer, but just
and
think
not
about
because
it.
Chad and Chris told you to.
Listen, I had to pay all the people that I had to get on. Like,
No.
I know you did.
And,
I know you did.
And here's something genuine here. And this is just a compliment to all four of you, and Greg included for that matter, to be honest with you. These four were invited to this panel because of what they live. They are exemplary, not only in what they do for the companies they work for, or the companies they own, but also in the lessons that they teach every day to other people and inspire other people. I'm one of the people that reached out to David because I am challenged with the gravity, self-induced victim here. So it's not a victim. I kicked my own ass. I reached out to Chris because I see him everywhere helping people, not just competitors. He does these webinars where he's teaching his competition how to become better people. Chad, he's doing this betterment circle and these different, you just did a conference down in Texas, San Antonio or something.
Yeah.
So, you're doing these conferences and stuff, and you're out there not just living and being practitioners and being better, but you are willing to help the other people to step up the next step. And Christy, I've already said everything about you. You motivate me so much, and I admire you so much, and just all the things that you do, not only for our industry, but for women, for young women, for girls, and just all around in general. I mean, just the fact that you guys are so excellent at being just fantastic human beings. So thank you all for being here.
Love it.
Thanks for having us. We love and adore both of you as well. And you have single-handedly supported all of us on your podcast and then throughout our career. And Kevin, I wouldn't have been able to finish without you.
Yeah, Kevin, your post about Chris on the Ironman was one of my favorite things I saw in the building industry this last year. I love everybody supporting each other.
Well, if anybody, just to give something back, if any of you want a House That She Built book, the first two people that email me, and it's just going to be based on when they hit my email, it's kevinw@outhouse.net. I will send you a complimentary copy of the activity book and the actual hardbound book to you. The first two people that email me, kevinw@outhouse.net, just put book in the subject line, and the first two people are going to win it. And I'm going to send it out to you. And the second offer is that this is a request. It's a shout out for help. I am gravity challenged. I am 280 pounds. I am what David started off with before he lost a Christy off of his body. So I am putting out this challenge. If you too have any kind of body issues that you are personally struggling with, and you want some accountability, there's no weigh-ins, there's none of this stuff. If you just want accountability, shoot me an email, kevinw@outhouse.net. I have between now and the end of 2022 to get down to 220 pounds.
Love that.
I'm looking for some help on accountability. If you two are in that same boat and need that help with accountability and just want a small network, kevinw@outhouse.net, and I will personally help hold you accountable and ask for you to do the same for me.
That's
and
awesome.
yes, drink water.
That's awesome.
Man, I love you all. Thank you
That's
all
awesome.
for being here today. Thank you everybody for being here in attendance. We did record this, so we can send this out to not only the panelists, but also to all the attendees. Jim will be sending it out to everybody that did register. So,
Hey, hey, Kevin, can we just tell people that you have an amazing podcast. You do a ton of these webinars to make sure, people, one, post it on social media, talk about it, get more people to follow, because, it's never too much great information and great inspiration out there. So I appreciate you having me on. Christy, now that you met me, you're kind of stuck with me for life. That's kind of how it works. So I'll be connected with you with David. David, you can help me shed some of this weight I've lost, but really appreciative of everybody having me on. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
I'm motivated. It's going to be a great year.
Awesome.
Well, I'm Kevin Weitzel with Outhouse, and that is
Greg Bray from Blue Tangerine. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us.